things we found when we were working on this book was we kept talking about right brain thinking and left brain thinking and how to get people to be more holistic. And that involved talking about masculine thought processes versus feminine. And this is obviously tricky. We might get killed even saying there is a difference between these two things. But we know for sure profitability, which is a very quantitative, top-down way of thinking, is sometimes appropriate. And sometimes compassion and empathy are appropriate. I personally might say one is a masculine way of thinking, one's a feminine. Other people might have another view. But the point is to play the whole keyboard of possibility. And what leaders need is to be able to play both ends of that spectrum, whether they're male or female. And I think it's been so much fun talking to you about this. And what do you think? Are we going to get killed on this point?
Well, we might do, because leaders will come back to us and say, I am playing all the right notes.
Yes.
And, but not necessarily in the right order.
Exactly.
Which is to quote a very famous English comedian. And this is one of the things that they think they're doing, which is that because their knowledge of the world is so certain that they come out with statements and assumptions about the way the world is, even when the world's already significantly changed and things have moved on.
Well, this is the thing. And what we found with leaders is they're like, my music is right, but nobody's following me.
Yeah.
And
everybody likes jazz.
Everybody likes my music, but no,
jazz.
not
we
so
like
much.
Jazz. Yeah, everybody likes jazz.
So that's the thing. I think one of the core messages in our book is that leadership in the 20th century was all about the leader. And in the 21st century, it's all about the ship. It's the management of the people. It's a bottom-up rather than a top-down process.
Yeah, and this notion that leadership is somehow a competence-driven process, which says that you have to do things right. Well, it's not about doing things right, it's about doing the right things. The orchestra conductor can't play the violin better or the bass drum better than anybody else in the orchestra. Their job is to get the performance out of the ensemble and listen to the thing that's joined up. And all of this analytical drill down thinking is preventing us from seeing that bigger picture and joining the dots. I mean, we talked about whether Brexit and Trump were actually an example of people not being able to join the dots, because people who were actually looking outside could see this coming.
Yeah.
But it didn't show in the data because they were analysing data that looked like a linear trend. And it wasn't linear, it was cyclical.
Well, this is the key thing. So we're not just talking about diversity of gender, important as that is. We're talking about diversity of thinking. And this is harder to achieve because you can have a lot of very diverse people in the room and they'll all go, oh, Trump will never win. No, now we don't have any diversity of thinking. And this is about moving people away from prediction more towards preparedness. Because prediction is a bit of a mug's game. It's either or, it's a binary outcome. Win, lose, but that's not real life. Real life is many possibilities might unfold. And certainly as a woman in leadership position, I'm a lot more comfortable with this second approach. And I want to be involved in organizations that give me permission to be in that mode of thinking. And I know I've said to you, sometimes I get approached about sitting, for example, on boards of directors. And there's no question sometimes what they're really looking for, and I know this sounds blunt, they're looking for a man in a dress. In other words, they want me because I'm a female, but do they want me to bring a more feminine thought process into that room? Maybe that's a bit more challenging.
Well, it's interesting when we start to define looking at the feminine thought process and the data and the research to support this from the social science side, which suggests that often female leaders will sacrifice individual personal goals in favour of the entirety of their team, and some even report feeling guilty and selfish if they achieve their personal goals, whereas male leaders are not quite so troubled by that problem.
No, there's no doubt. My instinct, my intuition is always, can't we all hold hands and finish this, get across the finish line together? It's a team effort. This is completely not how leadership usually thinks, which is it's either or. Either I win or I lose. There's nothing in between.
Yeah, and we come back to this notion that everything runs on a 90-day cycle, particularly with capital markets, where it's short-term, it's tactical, it's quantitative, it's not about the community, it's not about the mood, it's not about feelings. If you can't measure it, it's not real. And now we know that that has real ramifications in politics. Just because you can't measure it doesn't mean to say that people don't feel it.
Totally. So this is one of the key points that I was so pleased we got at in the book, which is basically to say math has to be matched by mood. You can do all the math you want. You can look at the polls, you can look at the profitability, but it doesn't tell you what is the mood. And a leader today has to be equally competent in assessing the math and the mood. So I'm an American, spends a lot of time in the UK. You're a Brit, spending a lot of time in America. We both worked in politics and in business. Everybody kind of knows why I'm interested in the question of female leadership, but maybe you can talk about why you were interested in this question.
Well, because I'm a fan of meritocracy and I'm a fan of people climbing ladders, and we say in the book about the elevators being broken, and people don't object to wealth creation, and what they object to is not being able to access it themselves or feeling that the system is rigged. And one of the big groups that feel the system is rigged is, of course, women in leadership positions. And we're not asking men to step aside, we're asking men to step up here, to recognize that there's a genuine problem here, even at the tactical level. All of the research shows that height is associated with authority and that loudness of voice is associated with confidence. And so we have to address that and level the playing field and give both the techniques and the approach that says, if you want to liberate the potential in all of your company, and that includes both genders and all ages, then sometimes you have to use the four most powerful words that there are in the boardroom, which is, what do you think? And so you've got to actually ask people for an opinion rather than just let the loudest voice dominate.
Yeah, and that's again, diversity of thinking is so hard to achieve when you're in any kind of organization. You feel like, excuse me, but I think Brexit might happen, but you're fearful you're going to be immediately shot down. So people go quiet. And this book is very much about how to help leaders help their team say what they think and not have this cult of the leader of this person is right, we all have to just follow what they say.
Well, that key thing about diversity of thinking also embraces things that boardrooms don't like to talk about. They don't like to talk about failure. Men don't like to talk about failure. Male cultures don't like to talk about failure. They like to talk about winners, about success. And unfortunately, one of the things we must recognize is that success is really the apex of a pyramid that sits on a base of failure.
Absolutely.
And unless we talk about failure and we talk about the reasons for failure, the only real difference between failure and success is the ability to get up and start again after that. And I was struck by watching my daughter learning to walk. She would get up and she'd fall over, she'd crawl, and then she'd get up and fall over and bang her head and cry, and she'd get up. Well, why was she doing that? Was it because her parents were encouraging her, or was that because it was fun to do that? And at what point do people in their lives fall over and not get up? And that's the point where we actually need that development to keep people going and believe that they can achieve those
Well,
things.
this is the thing. So leaders need to create an environment where people feel that they can and should reach beyond their current capability and take risks that might result in failure but might result in success. Because without risk, there's no reward.
I agree.